Now, classroom management is the overall theme of this unit, but within classroom management means that management must be applied. And therefore, the application of classroom management happens through classroom management practices. Now, what is that? Classroom management is a skill. Classroom management won't just happen. It's a skill that you learn to develop throughout your teaching career. All right? And you must start with that from the moment you enter a classroom, even when you go to practice teaching. Now, one of the reasons that the education system is performing poorly, some schools get poor results. Okay, those. You get poor results as a teacher. The learners, most of your learners pass between 30 and 39% is because of poor classroom management. Now, one of the ways to improve your classroom management skills is to make an effort to understand your learners better. Learn every learner that you have in your class. Try to build up a relationship with them in order to understand them. Why do they do certain things? If you get a learner that don't often talk in your class, find out what is the case. Maybe it is not school related, and it goes further than that, and you can refer the learner to something else. Or a learner on the other hand that is always talking again. Why does he do that? Find out. A learner that misbehaves. Sometimes it is not because of anything that you have done, but there is a broader issue at hand. So if you understand your learners better, that is part of classroom management practice. Then importantly, you as a teacher should always try to improve on how you transfer knowledge via teacher-centered learning methods. Now, teacher-centered learning methods implies the learners are actively involved in the classes. And how can you achieve some of these skills or practices is by attending professional growth courses to improve on your classroom management skills. Sometimes these courses are being offered by the department, or you can search for them yourself. You can also watch YouTube videos on classroom management skills on how to improve yourself. These days, these things are at your disposal at the click of a button. Then technological devices can be disruptive in a classroom, and teachers must follow the school's code of conduct in managing it. Sometimes the school doesn't allow cell phones at school or during classes, but you might decide that for my class today, I'm going to allow my learners to use it, but make sure that they open up where they should. If, for example, you present something on the Reserve Bank and you've already looked at a link on the Reserve Bank, make sure that everybody has got that link. So therefore, it is important that you should become knowledgeable on how to use technological devices, how to use it to teach. And also when learners use it, you must understand what they are busy with. Otherwise, they're going to run rings around you. So understanding technological devices is very important. Otherwise, your class can be disrupted. Very importantly for classroom management is that you as a novice teacher must recognize that each class has its own characteristics and class dynamics that must be managed accordingly. That can also have read each teachers must recognize that each learner has its own characteristics and own dynamics that must be managed accordingly. You can't treat all your classes or all your learners in the same way. Right? That is why I do not agree in the question of whole class punishment for one learner that has done something wrong. That is not fair on the other learners. But this issue of classroom management practices is very important, and you must try to get to grips with it from the beginning when you enter the classroom. A very important aspect of classroom management is routines. Routines is something that we do every day. So in a classroom, it is a rehearsed response to instruction given by teachers to learners. It provides structure to learners in all aspects of life. For example, when learners come to your class, the routine is that they must line up outside of your class. Girls on one side, boys on the other side. It gives them clarity of how they are going to enter their class. When they enter the class, what must they do? They must stand and wait for you to greet them. Right? And these routines must be practiced. It must become part of the daily routine. And then they sit down, they take out their books. Every day you do it, or you work hard in the first term on these routines, and then it becomes easier for the learners and for yourself. Second bullet says these routines is introduced to ensure that learners know what is expected of them and allowed to do things on their own. The first week you tell them what to do, and thereafter you check whether they are doing what is expected. Routines create and maintain classroom order and save valuable instruction time. It is the backbone of daily classroom life. With routines, you make things so much easier. In the morning, when they enter the class before the period starts, what do? You put a slide on, or you read for them what is going to happen at school today. That is the information that you receive from management. Then they sit and wait for the bell to ring, or you ask who's got a birthday and you sing for that person, etc. And then 5 minutes before the time, they get themselves ready, and then they leave the class in an orderly fashion. What is orderly? It's not just going to happen. You must tell them how they're going to leave. Those sitting closer to the door leave first, or those that's further from the door leave first, etc. That creates order. It's a response. Routines is formally defined as procedures and are exact movements that learners take in reaching a desired outcome, according to Trussell. These procedures can cover many desired behaviors. So what do we have routines for? You have morning routines, classroom questioning and answers, because this can also results in chaos in a class. Everybody put up their hand and they shout to want to answer. Tell them how it's going to happen. You put up your hand and I will identify who am I going to ask to answer. How do they exit the classroom, as I just explained previously, is also a routine. These routines or procedures will ensure that all activities in a class will proceed smoothly. And if these things proceed smoothly, then you have lesser disciplinary problems. See paragraph 5.5 in your learning unit for a detailed discussion on routines. Please, students, do not only work on your assignment, but read the other materials. It's preparing you to become teachers. And the last aspect that we're going to deal with under this learning unit is culturally responsive teaching. C for cultural, R for response, T for teaching. Culturally responsive teaching. Now we do that South Africa have learners from different internal ethnic groups. We have different ethnic groups. We have 11 official languages. We have immigrants. We've got members from the LGBTQ communities, etc. So we have a diverse class that we need to teach to. And you as a teacher must be very much aware of this. The instructional strategy of culturally responsive teaching is thus suggested to teach effectively under multicultural conditions. So you are not teaching people from your own ethnic group, for example. You are teaching learners from different cultural groups, and that is why you must have a teaching method or a teaching philosophy that you are going to use. So what must you as teachers do? You must make an effort to become familiar with the different cultures. You must try and understand why a learner reacts in a certain ways. As I said, sometimes a learner is quiet and you must read it. Now, some teachers do overreact to non-verbal cues that they do not understand. The second sentence there in the third bullet. Do not overreact to non-verbal cues that you do not understand. Sometimes a learner don't look you in the eyes and you take it as disrespect. But culturally, that learner has been brought up not to look an adult in the eye. So don't just react immediately. Find out why is it the case. And it is important that you bring in the parents if you do not understand their behavior from certain learners. In the light of cultural differences, individual cultures must be taken into account when planning classroom strategies. So when you plan your lesson, look at what you are saying and ask yourself, do I accommodate all cultures? Then very importantly, because I think in your assignment, they also ask you a question relating to a practical example. And you guys normally do not answer the practical part of the question. And then you say, yeah, but I've got so many. No, if you do not address a specific aspect that is being asked in a question, then you guys are going to lose marks. Now, from my experience, I know, for example, if you teach a lesson on broad black economic empowerment, triple BEE, you have to give a perspective from all cultural groups sitting in on your lesson. Because broad-based black economic empowerment, it seems to favor those that are not white. And they have a specific perspective. Maybe you are also not white and you want to push a certain perspective. And then the other learners that are white might feel that this is discrimination in the reverse. And you need to address it by giving all perspective. Mainly stick overwhelmingly to the facts. Do not be subjective, try to be objective, and try not to be prejudicial. In other words, do not favor one perspective above the other. You give the learners the opportunity to make up their own minds on how they feel about this, but remind them, especially at grade 12 level, it will mainly be facts that are marked. But there is nothing wrong to tell them what the intentions of this act is. Although it might uh, hurt some learners' feelings, it is just the way it is. But you also express their point of view, how they feel about it, right? So it is a very, it's a balancing act that you need to perform. Then with such schools being diverse cultural hubs, it is important for teachers to be in touch with the parents of learners, as I said on top there, so that you understand their challenges. Sometimes learners do not really follow what we say in English and we are not aware of it. And then we need to inquire how much they know, etc. You need to understand the background so that you can teach accordingly. Please go read up on this. This is in paragraph 5.6 in your learning unit. So that learners, complete my lesson on, it's actually a summarizing lesson on the classroom management in the diverse South African economics classroom. And you can use this in addition to your learning unit. Remember, your learning unit is your most important resource in order to complete assignment 5 by the due date. By the due date. I thank you and I wish you well, especially for those that still doing teaching practice. Please do your best.